Today I'm going to make a presentation on some of the issues which are basically being associated with the anthropogenic input and how it is likely to affect the marine biodiversity and the ecosystem function. This is one of the topic that is very close to our hearts because we are ultimately utilizing most of the life that is likely to occur on the planet in a manner which we are likely to be beneficial. And today I am going to tell you something about some of the fundamental aspects in the first module, where I will try to address what does the biodiversity mean and what are the important integral parts of this particular biodiversity component, and how the productivity and habitat heterogeneity is known to affect the biodiversity in the marine ecosystems. To start with, biodiversity is one of the vague term which has been floated at a different point of time and is being used by different policymakers, administration in different sense. And if you look at the definition that is basically being floated as far as the biodiversity is concerned, it means variability of life. The variability of life of living organisms in the inter alia land ecosystem, in the aquatic environments, and in the marine and other aquatic ecosystems of which this particular life is going to be a part. So this basically includes diversity within the species, between the species, and of the ecosystem of which it is a part. This definition was by and large accepted at the United Nations Convention on Biodiversity way back in 1992 after a big debate of wherein the different thoughts were basically being put forth. Now, if you look at this particular term, biodiversity, it means, or it rather encompasses the most of the aspects, living as well as non-living components which are available on the planet. Thereby, if you try to use this particular term, biodiversity, it is a vague term which is normally including everything under the umbrella of this biodiversity, everything that is there on the planet. And therefore, it may not be very practical as far as the creation of a particular impact is concerned in understanding the biodiversity of these particular ecosystems. Now, very often we find that that specific issues are basically being addressed, and in order to address these specific issues in terms of biodiversity, we probably would like to use some of the adjectives which make things, or which allow this particular biodiversity issues to come down, or to rather to narrow down, or to a specific objectives or whatever that issues that are basically being addressed. And as a result of this, today I am going to focus upon the marine biodiversity. So marine is the adjective which is basically being used, which delineates some of the other areas of biodiversity which are basically known to be falling within this particular domain. As such, if you look at this particular term, you will find that it includes the variability of life that is there on this particular planet, and it is basically being addressed at different forums. And therefore, in order to make a very significant contribution to the scientific agenda, it would be more appropriate to use a particular adjective so that we streamline our objectives and then try to address the specific issues that are being pertaining to the biodiversity. Like some of the adjectives which can be used are like, say, for example, deep sea biodiversity or coral reef biodiversity or maybe fish biodiversity, so that we are addressing issues which are highly specific, and so that significant contribution can be made to the scientific agenda. Now, if you look at the biodiversity, especially the marine biodiversity that is likely to occur in the aquatic ecosystems or in the marine environment, it is normally considered to be a highly diverse environment as compared to the land or a terrestrial ecosystem. Typically because you find that there are about 28 phyla that are represented in the marine ecosystem, of which 15 are exclusively found in the marine environment only, as against that of the land ecosystem, where you find only about 11 phyla that are normally known to be represented, thus indicating that the marine ecosystem or the marine environment is highly diversified in terms of the marine biota or the life that is likely to occur in this particular environment. If you look at the biodiversity, it has got several components, and these components which are likely to be there, they make most of the issues pertaining to this biodiversity comparatively more and more complicated or more and more complex. Now, one of the factor that is likely to address that is likely to form a component of biodiversity is morphological variations. Now, in the aquatic ecosystems or in the marine environment, you will find the most of the organisms which show a very large variability in terms of the morphology that is likely to occur. Some of the fishes, if you look at the fish population that is known to occur, you will find some of the population is spindle shape, whereas some of the organisms are normally flattened, and then you have variability in terms of the morphology that is known to occur in this particular environment. So the morphological changes or the morphological differences that are known to occur in the marine ecosystem or marine environment add to the biodiversity or to complicate or to complex issues of the biodiversity that are known to prevail. Next important component is life cycle. Now, most of these marine invertebrates or the invertebrate phyla, which are known to occur in the marine ecosystem, they have got a biphased type of life history. In case of biphased type of life history, you find the larval population that is normally known to be associated with the pelagic environment, and as they are positively phototactic, and as they normally turn out or try to show a ontogenic migration that is known to occur with the development of the life cycle, you find they are positively geotrophic. That is, from the surface waters, they normally move to the deeper waters, and thereby again try to occupy a different habitat at different times as far as their metamorphosis in the life system support is concerned. So the life cycle of most of this invertebrate population, marine invertebrates, make much more complex, bring much more complexity to the biodiversity issues as far as the marine ecosystem or marine environment is concerned. Another important component which is also associated with this biodiversity issue is the role that is being performed by these particular organisms in the trophic level or in that particular habitat. That is the ecological role. Some of these particular organisms, they are identified to be producers, whereas some are consumers, carnivores, or maybe predators. Within each of this particular habitat or within this particular ecosystem, you will find that they are normally known to complement or perform within that particular ecosystem with a close associationship, thereby making things comparatively more and more complex as far as issues pertaining to the biodiversity are concerned. Another important component which is also being associated with the biodiversity is the intraspecific variations and the interspecific diversity that is known to occur. When we refer to the intraspecific diversity that is known to occur, we are mainly trying to refer to the diversity within the species, or probably the genetic diversity which is normally known to be prevailing and affecting the much of the genome that is known to occur in that particular environment. Whereas when we talk about the interspecific diversity, we are talking about the diversity which is between the species, which is typically based on the orthodox type of morphological or the taxonomic differences which are normally known to occur. And by and large, these are two important constituents which also contribute to the issues pertaining to the biodiversity that is known to prevail. Another dimension which is also being added to this biodiversity is the ecological interactions. Now, the species-specific interactions within this particular marine habitats, which is wherein most of these organisms are normally known to be very closely associated with each other, they also influence the biodiversity that is known to prevail in that particular environment. The ecological conditions or the habitat complexity of these particular ecosystems also regulate or contribute to the biodiversity that is known to prevail in that particular area, in that particular habitats. Just to give you an example of ecological interactions or the ecological interactions which are known to prevail, one of the best examples that can be cited is the zooxanthellae and then that of the coral reef corals, which are known to occur in these particular areas, wherein you find that there is a symbiotic relationship wherein both the partners are basically being benefited as far as their survivability and the life support system that is known to occur in this particular environment. Now, in the marine ecosystems, the biodiversity is basically known to be determined by some of the determinants which regulate within that particular habitat or within that particular ecosystem. To start with, these determinants which are known to be associated with the biodiversity can broadly be classified into a producer community and then a consumer community. In the consumer community, you will find that there will be different stakeholders in terms of predation, competition that is known to prevail, whereas in the producer community, you will find the phytoplankton community or macroalgae that are known to occur, which contribute to the initial biomass, where the synthesis of this organic matter from the inorganic constituents is normally known to occur. So when we talk about the producer community, it is basically the autotrophic community which converts the inorganic constraints in presence of light into organic material, and there you find that the diversified population which is known to occur as far as the phytoplankton population is concerned is likely to be governed by the competition which is normally known to occur mainly for the nutrients. So in the ecosystems where the nutrients are plenty or high amount of nutrients that are normally known to occur, complemented with the very poor type of mixing process or the stratification that is known to occur, you will find the dominance of the population that is likely to occur, thereby decreasing the diversity that is normally known to occur. Such competitive exclusion which is likely to occur in the phytoplankton population is rare, or it does not happen simply because most of the marine habitats or most of these particular environments where phytoplankton biomass is normally known to occur is likely to be obliterated by the physical process which are known to occur in that particular environment, and thereby you don't find the competitive exclusion that is known to occur as far as the phytoplankton population is concerned. Now, very often when you look at the resource, another important component is that the availability of the resources in that particular ecosystem. You will find that most of the coastal ecosystems are known to support a much diversified population as compared to that of the open ocean, simply because the coastal areas are eutrophic and they contain a high input of the nutrient flux as compared to that of the open ocean ecosystems where the nutrients are completely limited and thereby the productivity is nutrient limited. So in such ecosystems, wherever the resources are plentiful, you find that the competition is likely to be less. And as a result, you find the producer community that is normally known to sustain in that particular environment. The second component which is likely to be added to this particular ecosystem in terms of the higher trophic level is the consumer community, which is normally represented by most of the consumers which are known to occur into that particular ecosystem. The consumers, mainly represented in the form of grazers or herbivores or maybe the carnivores or predators which are known to occur, they play a very important role as a top predator or as a predator in that particular ecosystem, and then they try to regulate the population of most of these stakeholders as far as that particular community structure is concerned. And as a result, you find that there is a top-down control which is normally known to be maintained as far as the ecosystem functioning is concerned, which normally promotes high species diversity that is known to prevail in that particular environment. Now, if you look at this particular situation, you will find that there could be two different approaches which could be identified. One is the bottom-up approach, that the primary producers will play an important role in regulating much of the diversity that is known to prevail in that particular environment. In contrast, if you look at the consumer community, you will find it is the top-down approach where the apex predator or the top predator is likely to control the population structure of that particular ecosystem or that particular environment. Now, if you look at the consumer community or the competition that is known to prevail as far as some of the potential competitors are concerned, one of the best examples that could be cited is intertidal areas or the intertidal habitat where you find the mussels to be competitively superior. However, the top predator, that is a starfish, which is likely to enter into that particular region or in that particular ecosystem, does not allow that particular monopolization of this particular mussels to occur, thereby maintaining a very high diversity in the coastal ecosystems, typically in the marine, in the intertidal habitats. Similarly, in the deep sea ecosystem, you will find the deposition of much of the phytodetrital material or the molds or the bioturbation, which brings about the habitat heterogeneity that is known to prevail in that particular area, thereby enabling different micro-niches or microhabitats which are likely to prevail in that particular environment there, so that it provides much higher diversity that is known to occur in these particular ecosystems or in this particular environment. Another important component which also is of significant importance is the productivity. The productivity is one of the important parameters that regulates the diversity in the marine ecosystems or in the marine environment. Most of the waters which are highly productive supply the required amount of resources as far as resource availability is concerned, and thereby there is no reason why a diverse population should not enter into that particular ecosystem or in that particular environment. So the second important component which is likely to play a very important role is the habitat variability. That is, you find different ecosystems which are normally known to be confined into that particular ecosystem, and within a short radius or within a short area, you find interaction of these different habitats which are normally known to occur, which will probably support a much diversified population that is likely to occur in the in that particular habitat or in that particular ecosystem. So typically, looking at a coastal ecosystem, if you try to look at two different unique ecosystems, maybe like, say for example, the mangrove ecosystem and a coral reef, they are normally known to be available in that particular near vicinity of each other, then you find a different type of food chains that are normally known to proliferate into that particular ecosystems, and thereby they bring about a better coupling between these particular ecosystems to support a comparatively much higher diversity that is known to prevail in that particular environment. If you look at the mangrove ecosystems, you will find that the bacterial protoplasm that is associated with the decomposition of this mangrove leaf is likely to lead to a nutrient enhancement into that particular ecosystem, thereby supporting or providing more and more amount of organic matter that is likely to be associated available in that particular ecosystem. In contrast, if you try to look at a coral reef ecosystem, the mucus which is normally released by these particular corals is known to contain triglycerides and wax esters, which are also known to impart certain amount of energy, thereby making more and more energy available in that particular ecosystem. So when such ecosystems are in the near vicinity of each other, you find a better interaction that is likely to occur, and they are likely to support more and more amount of more diverse population in this particular ecosystem. So thank you. This is what is in the first module. In the second module, I will try to tell you something about the food chain and their coupling.